on the Piss and Moan net from WA1HLR. Well, you speak a lot of my feelings there, Chuck. I couldn't agree more strongly. What a bunch of shit. Y2K. I mean, come on. Like 15 years ago. We didn't have computers controlling every other goddamn thing. It's like how we built our communications infrastructure now on satellites. You know, Perseids meteor shower happened a little while ago. I mean, what would happen if meteor shower comes breezing through and punches out half a dozen satellites or so? You know, it's like when G4 shit the bed. all the terror that incited. Well, you know what would be an interesting point of research? Here, have some red stuff. Would be going back to the turn of the century, 1899, 1900, and seeing how people felt. I'm sure there was lots of doomage and gloomage. I've heard lots of tales from many years ago when I was a young, of how people were freaking out back then. It seemed like humanity was, in a way, a lot more superstitious and hung up on unexplainable things, you know? Whereas here we are, we're all supposed to be that much more advanced, that much more rational, that much more thinking, and everybody's freaking out about Y2K. I mean, come on. Yeah, there's a problem. All it is just various programs for computers. Maybe some EEPROMs or whatever, all burned in with, probably because of the whole planned obsolescence thing. The designers of the software probably thought, yeah, they won't be using this stuff in the year 2000. Why bother with it? Fact of the matter is, they are. So things have to be rewritten. You know? So various friends of mine, well, I'd say one friend in particular, you know, saying, well, Jesus, you got to get your money all out of savings, or in this case, CDs, turn it into gold, dig a hole in your property and bury it. Now, I don't know, I would rather have it all put away than just buried on my property. If I had my assets converted into gold and buried in the ground, and, you know, was worth enough for somebody to try and go after it. Hey, yeah, you can take a metal detector and walk around, you can find it. It's just the way it is. But, you know, I hear all these doom and gloom reports from certain people saying, oh yeah, the economy is going to crash, you wait, you know, and then the economy belches or farts, you know, and it drops quite a few thousand points or whatever, and then slowly works its way back up again, much the way a Slimatron recycles, you know. And how my money is going to be worthless and how I have to convert it into gold. Well, for the hell of it, the bank that I do business with is local here to town, and it's actually been a growing bank. It was unaffected by the S&L scam that went on back in the 80s, or whatever, early 90s. I don't keep track of this stuff. The bank was unaffected, and I asked them, you know, they have a new computer operations center that was built within the last few years. And I asked them about Y2K when I was dealing with some CDs, and, you know, it's like, we've taken care of it. Besides that, what I have in money in the bank is on hard copy. So there you go. I just cannot believe that it's all going to blow up in the year 2000. It just is beyond logic. WA1GFZ, good evening there, Mr. Frank, and your Pissings and Moanings for the Piss and Moan Net.
Yeah, WA1HLR in the net. This is WA1GFZ. Hey, good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. And Dean, I sympathize with your gun law problem, but in our state we've managed to inherit your football team for $500 million, so that we can entertain a bunch of drunks for 6 or 7 weekends out of the year. And then what do we do with this thing? You know, this $500 million area. And to top it all off, they put it in the most densely packed area of the city. I wonder what politician owned a half an acre of the 50-yard line. Whereas they could have moved the thing a couple miles south and had enough parking for half the state. So we may not have a screwed up gun law, but man, we got some bribed politicians. And then they talk about all the money we're going to make. Well, if it was such a money-making deal, how come Massachusetts was smart enough to tell them to take a hike, and Rhode Island was smart enough to tell them to take a hike? But no, Connecticut, we got money to burn here. So we're going to have a football team. We don't have enough money to put a computer in every classroom in the state, but we got enough money to entertain a bunch of drunks. So that's my P&M for the pre-millennium P&M. And my vote for the P&M net is around 8 o'clock, 8:30. Earlier in the day it's tough when you got kids to hang out with and other responsibilities, but right after 60 minutes is a good time for the P&M net for my vote there, Tim. WA1H P&M net. This is WA1GFZ.
Yes, sir. WA1GFZ and the Piss and Moan Net. This is WA1HLR. Henry LR. Well, you know, during the formative years of the Piss and Moan Net, when it first evolved in the summer, in the middle 80s, net time was at 8 o'clock. Now that I think of it, 8 o'clock in the evening, just after 60 minutes, because well, shall we say, I'd watched 60 minutes, and there'd be some travesty that they would bring to light that would really piss me off like it pissed them off. It was like, damn it, I want to cuss and discuss this. Pros and cons. We need the input of everybody, the whole slice of life of humanity that's right here on this channel. Yeah. Yeah, that is bizarre. I've been hearing about that. Hartford, I guess, has got a football team or something like that. I can give a rat's ass about sports. I know there's some people that are really into it, but that's just the way it is. It takes all kinds to make a world, but I can't see taxpayers' money going to support a sports team. I mean, come on. Get real. What they should do is offer a tax incentive. You know, those people that are locked into the tax system to, you know, just like you can donate a certain amount of your tax monies towards a charitable organization, you could write off a certain amount of tax to be donated to the particular athletic team that has decided, or shall I say, that has been tucked into lodging in your state. And those of you who are new to it should not pay a red cent for it. There's got to be a better way, because I would be rather pissed off too there, Mr. Frank. So we're at the middle of our net session here with all the check-ins we have, so let's have a courtesy net call-up. Calling the Piss and Moan net, calling the Piss and Moan net. This is WA1HLR standing by for additional check-ins for the Piss and Moan net. Well, I guess all that's in here is in here now. N1ZR, good evening, sir, and your Pissings and Moanings for the Piss and Moan net. Well, we have a no-show, no-go, no-low for N1ZR. How about you, John, W3EGC? Good evening, and your Pissings and Moanings for the Piss and Moan net.
Okay. WA1HLR in the group. But I don't have anything to worry about in this Y2K thing here, because I've got all zeros in my bank account. And I, really PO'd about that, and I really should be worried about it like everybody else. So that's what my problem is, Timmy.
Well, you just hang out, then when the year 2000 comes, the odometer clicks over to all zeros, and, picks up from there. So you don't have anything to piss and moan about?
Yeah, that's what I'm pissing and moaning about. I mean, I should have, at least a figure out there to the left somewhere, but I've got all zeros. So if anybody wants to send, I'm okay in the call book, I send all checks to the address listed there, okay?
Please, send us your dollars. Yeah, okay. Okay, who knows, I might send you something. Once in a while I play that Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes. And this time it's $31 million. Imagine you will be interviewed on the Monday Night Football routine in January, and we will present you with the $31 million winner. Send it in, see what the hell happens. Boy, I would shit if that happened to me. $31 million. What the hell would I do with it? You know what I'd do? Just go and build my own mansion on WA1HLR Mountain. Get a place somewhere else. Maybe in another country. Because I would invest a lot of that money. I'd make a lot of investments. But then on the other hand, I would give it away to people that really need it. That I know. They really need it to bail their asses out and keep on trucking. What can I say? To you there, Sue, KB2IRH, your Pissings and Moanings for the Piss and Moan net. Come in.
Okay, WA1HLR and PNM net, KB2IRH.
Has N1MAA been called yet?
I hear you, Sue. Go ahead.
Okie dokie. All right, before I go to with the uniform. That duty is yours forever. And I'm so glad to hear that the CNN is back. I also agree with 8 o'clock. I think 8 o'clock is a much better time. Usually on Sundays I have a later supper because my father's home and the family likes to eat together and all that sort of stuff. So usually about 7:30 I'm done. o'clock is definitely a perfect time. All right, on to my P&M. My P&M for tonight is the telephone company. They are treating me like a criminal, and they're really getting my dander up. I just got a new phone about a month ago, and I've been trying to get a phone for 2 months now. First of all, I call the telephone company, and they give me all the information, the lowdown on the phone, and all that sort of stuff. And then they tell me, oh, wait a minute, we have a problem here. Your name is not matching up to your Social Security number. Somebody else's name comes up with your Social Security number. Then I had to call this other company that looked after misunderstanding. And that took a long time to come through. Then it took a long time for the telephone companies to get their act together. They get my phone line installed. I seem to remember that when my brother was 9 years old, he was able to get his own phone. This is totally ridiculous the way they're jerking me around. I'm a 63-year-old adult, and I have my own phone when I want it. Why are they treating me like a criminal? So finally, okay, I get my phone, the line's in, the line's working. And now come around Christmas time, I made all kinds of long-distance calls because I have a lot of friends that live in faraway places that I never really called on my parents' phone because every time I called one of them up, I would get a third degree from my father. Who is this person? Why did you call them? How do you know them? Why do you know them? Why do you want to talk to them? The whole 9 yards. So that's the reason why I wanted to get my own phone line in the first place. So I make a lot of long distance calls, and I say, fine, okay, I got money in the bank. I can pay for these things. I've got a job. I can afford it. So I just go all out. And one guy up in Massachusetts, I spoke to him for 2 hours about Tesla coils. So I guess I'm going to rack up a pretty big long distance bill this month. And I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. But now I get a letter in the mail from the phone company telling me, as we discussed previously in our conversation on the phone, you have a $200 limit on long distance calls for an entire year. In other words, I can't rack up a bill over $200 a month for one whole year. And then they tell me, well, if this is an inconvenience to you, a form of identification with your picture on it, what is this crap? They're just treating me like I'm some kind of criminal, like they don't trust me or something like that. Hey, if I don't pay my phone bill, just come after me and whack me over the head. But to say I'm not allowed to make any calls over, make up any bill over $200, that's totally ridiculous. So, I don't know what my bill's going to come out to this month, but I know it's going to be a big one, and I can certainly afford it. But I just don't like having all of these restraints placed on me. I don't know why they're doing it. I know my brother didn't have all these problems when he got his own phone, so I don't know why I'm having all these brick walls thrown in front of me. So there it is. There's my P&M for the net, and back over to you, WA1HLR, KB2IRH.
Okay, Sue, very good. KB2IRH, WA1HLR, the Pissings and Moanings. modern technology, I was able to eliminate it and hear you. Okay, fine. Yes, this is a net frequency. There was somebody on Swap Bucket asking if the frequency's in use. The frequency's in use! The frequency's in use! The frequency's in use! Jesus, this is a net. Please, give us a break. You know, I can see the plate current is going up. We'll have to call in the station engineer. We'll have to pull an INR here at the Piss and Moan net control. Stand by, please. All right, I think things are beginning to ice up here at Net Control Central. I think after the Piss and Moan net, we'll have to have an ice loading reconnaissance mission launched here. Get into the foul weather gear. Well, what an asshole operation. I've never been bothered with telephonium companies to any limits on a long-distance telephonium call. And furthermore, they have absolutely no right to use your social security number. You shouldn't even bother giving it to them. You should tell them right up front, it's my own personal business. That's between the government and me. It does not concern you. So there you go. You know, a lot of businesses seem to like to use your social security number. Why? I don't know. This is more of some people would say, oh, one world government keeping control and tracking you, yada, 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 but it seems insulting. It's like all along I've been brought up to believe that we are all innocent until proven guilty. In this situation, you're guilty and you have to prove your innocence. So piss on them. I don't know. Yeah. It's good to vent your frustrations here on the Piss and Moan net. Maybe you should write into the local paper in a Piss and Moan fashion about how they're jerking you around and what jerks they are. Really. It needs to be exposed. Needs to be exposed. Anyway, let's keep this mother moving along here. W2ZE, good evening, Mike, and your Pissings and Moanings for the Piss and Moan net.
Thank you, Timmy. WA1HLR, this is W2ZE for the Piss and Moan net. Well, my Piss and Moan is kind of a trivial one, but nonetheless, it kind of irked me when I got up this morning. All weekend I've been hearing from the weather stations, and in particular the Weather Channel, about how bad the storm is and how crippling it's going to be. And all the ice we're going to expect, that upstate New York and New England should be prepared for the worst, that you're going to get 1 inch of ice. This is going to be one of the storms of the century. You might be without power for several days indeed. So naturally, being in the business that I am, and my electronic leash immediately conjured up visions of me getting up at 2 in the friggin' morning, getting to a transmitter house, and getting these things back on the air with detuned, iced-up antennas. And that would suck. So nonetheless, my BAs were worked up into a frothy lather last night, all bent out of shape because the ice storm is coming, the ice storm is coming, the sky is falling. Needless to say, I think we got about 1/10 of an inch of an ice, maybe a little bit of wind, but needless to say, when I pewned down the radio this morning, the local electric company had a total of 12 outages. Not 12 areas that were out of power, but 12 people without power. And that just worked my nuts up into a frothy lather again. That these TV stations, and the Weather Channel included,
sensationalize these events and say how terrible they are and how terrible they are. And yes, there are natural disasters out there that cause lots of damage and misery. Hurricane Mitch in Central America, various tornadoes that just can wipe out towns in a matter of seconds. But yet to sit there and sensationalize on the news, and especially the local news, when you got these talking heads that have hair 6 inches out of place.
I don't know what the temps are right now.
And they sit here and sensationalize this and sensationalize this, and maybe they're trying to prepare people for the worst, maybe.
Yeah, so they can walk over to the building and I felt it.
But some of these people have a good goddamn idea what's going on. And to work my nuts through the coffee ladder really kind of sucked. And have nothing come about it. And I understand there are situations, whether, like I said before, weather situations that cause great pain and misery and pains in the BAs to a lot of people, especially in Chicago this weekend. To sit here and say this is going to be the worst storm, and then 12 hours later it passes by and, oh, we were wrong. Terribly sorry about that. Working my nuts up into a coffee ladder. So it's kind of a trivial piss and moan, but anything for ratings. Anything for ratings, and that's what pisses me. WA1HLR, W2ZE.
W2ZE and the Piss and Moan Net. WA1HLR, Henry LR Radio. Yes, indeed, I've been through those situations before. The storm sensationalism, but you know, it's getting worse. It's like, come on, go up a ringside seat and watch the destruction as the tornadoes go ripping across the landscape and destroying part of the downtown area in the town in which you live. Here, sit down in front of the TV screen and eat popcorn and enjoy. You know, that kind of thing. It's like I heard about runners earlier this year when there was the remnants of a hurricane that was supposed to come smashing in. I think it came landing in Jersey somewhere a little bit, and there was some douchebag standing there on TV with the waves pounding in, and just standing there getting sprayed and douched by the hurricane, and it was no big thing. And the guy, you know, I think they just had this shot of this guy standing there for hours, and it's like, why bother? You know, God. But I think with the ice storm situation that happened last year, and all this talk about what is it, La Nina? They call the winter phase component to El Nino. I mean, what is this? I think the 90s have been a time of hanging labels on naturally occurring things. I mean, weather is one of those things that just goes in weird-ass cycles all the time. You go back to recorded history when weather has been recorded, there's been a lot of bizarre stuff that happens over the years. Well, I'm looking out there, and I've just heard all this about the storm in a way. I say, well, thank God it hasn't been a bad situation. It's just a glazing of little glazing of ice and some snow, and that's it so far. So just be thankful. Just be thankful, and you don't have to get jerked by that electronic leash and sit out there at some mountaintop with the road glazed over, trying to get up there just to get at their transmitter and tweet things. Believe me, I went through that 12 years taking care of a transmitter site in a very inhospitable place from time to time, and I have had a lot of scary experiences in dealing with the not-so-fun WX old man. NYMAA, I think that's Jim, if I have you correct. Good evening, sir, and you're Pissings and Moanings for the Piss and Moan Net. have a trivial thing. It is about the annoying tendency these days of retail establishments not using price tags anymore. Now, I got in at least 2 cases yesterday. I picked up items, and after spending several minutes staring at some kind of hieroglyphic tag on the shelf trying to ascertain which tag went with which item, in 2 cases I was wrong. Because the numbers didn't match. In one case, it was what they call chain disorders. Not very much. They actually were I thought, was it 4 of them? Actually, the price on them was less than the tag. I couldn't tell if they were on sale or not. And the other was a 3-ring binder. I looked, which kind is it? Is it poly? Is it the cloth covered? Is it the plastic one? I don't know. I couldn't read from the description. Sure enough, I get up there, it's $1.50 more. How on earth are we supposed to put up with it? I mean, at the very least, they should put scanners in the shelves so we could tell what the price was.